Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today from all around the world. It's always nice to see in the chat. So if you haven't had a chance, just tell us where you're joining us from in the chat window. My name is Alexander, as my label somewhere down below tells you. I am a Cooper Union alum, and I'm also the curator of its Herb Lubalin Study Center of Design and Typography. I'm joining you all today from Cooper Union, from New York City. And welcome to the 7th edition of our conference and our second virtual edition of the Typographics Festival. Today we are presenting our 7th session, so lucky sevens all around. And we will have 3 more presentation days coming up, 1 this week and 2 more next week. So make sure to join us. You can check out our website, 2021.typographics.com for all of the information and the full calendar. You can subscribe to the calendar. You can see everything that's coming up. Before I introduce our host for today, we would love to show you a few short animations from our sponsors, whose generosity is allowing us to pull off this 5-week, 10-day event. So please enjoy them. Another thank you to our sponsors and to Cooper Union for making this event possible. A very quick note, 2 of today's talks will be in Arabic, and we have a live translator helping us today. So we thank them for helping. You could use the translate feature. It's built into Zoom. It's kind of at the bottom of your screen. If you don't see it, just hover over the window, the video panel window, the main window, and you should see a set of new options. And there will be a translate little globe icon, and you can click on that and you can toggle to hear the English audio track. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's host and the curator of today's program, Bahia Shahab. I will give you a very quick overview. Her accomplishments are many, and it's too much to to kind of condense it into this very short format. So I apologize for that. Well, I'll do the best to kind of give you the important highlights. Baye Shab is an artist and an author based in Cairo, Egypt. This is where she's joining us from right now. She is a professor of design and founder of the graphic design program at the American University in Cairo. She's also the founding director of Type Lab at AUC, the American University in Cairo. Her work has been exhibited internationally and has received a number of international awards, including the BBC's 100 Women's List, a TED Senior Fellowship, a Prince Claus Award, and the UNESCO Sharjah Prize for Arab Culture. She has authored several books, and her two most recent publications are You Can Crush the Flowers, a visual memoir of the Egyptian Revolution, and A History of Arab Graphic Design, an amazing new title. We're waiting the shipment of that book to come in so we can add it to the Little Balance Center's collection, along with several other books that Bahia kindly donated to us in 2018. It seems so long ago, when she was a presenter here at Typographics in 2018. It's really wonderful to have her back here at Typographics. So thank you, Bahia, and welcome back.
Thank you, Alexander. It's a pleasure to be back, and thank you for hosting us. I will switch to Arabic now so that our attendees can follow the translation. شكرا لانضمامكم إلنا. نحن كتير فخورين إنه نكون جزء من Typographics هيدي السنة باللغة العربية لأول مرة. رح أقدم أول متحدث معنا اليوم. إلي الشرف العظيم إني أقدم أستاذ
It's my honor to introduce to you Njay Mahdawi. He is a choreographer of letters. His work has been, his inspiring artistic work has been presented in lots of museums east and west. He lectures as well as his awards is a very long list, very important work, from mosques to aeroplanes, and he affected and touched the lives of so many and influenced so many artists. We will present first some of his work, and then we will invite him to join us and talk to us.
واو. واو. تسلم ايديك. ما بعرف شو
Wow,
ما
this
في
is
كلام
amazing.
ينقال بعد
There are no words
بعد
to be
اللي
said
شفناه.
about after what we saw.
تسلم ايديك استاذ نجاة، اهلا وسهلا فيك
May your
وشرفتنا
hands be blessed.
ونورتنا.
We are you are
منك
welcome
هلا
here.
بعد الجمال اللي شفناه،
I,
يعني بعد
after
الغذاء
all the
للروح اللي
beauty we watched,
شفناه، انه نحن
the
حكينا
food for the
شوي
soul that
بهالوقت
you offered
الضيق
us,
اللي
that you
معنا
tell
عن
us
مع
a little
الشات.
bit in the little time that we have to talk to us.
بزلت من جيل التعليم في الحقيقة بعد سنين.
In fact, after years,
الفن في روما في أكاديمية سانتا أندريا روما عند القدوس
studying in Santa Andrea in Rome,
أتت مسألة يعني مع نفسي مسألة الوعي ومسألة الهوية.
I started to think about the idea of consciousness, identity. After years in Europe and learning European art, I am not a calligrapher. I just need to be clear. Identity was a very important matter for me. I discovered that searching for an identity made people close themselves and become more tribal and not open to other cultures. The other idea is the awareness. When we speak about awareness,
يعني القطيعة الإبستمولوجية مع الثقافة الآخر.
that creates disparity or a clear cut between this culture and the other culture. What I'm thinking about is the connection between other cultures to create connection internationally. So you are a witness in a game and part of the bigger universal conversation.
نلقى أخطر عملية هو إعادة وتكرار ماذا صنعوه نساء ورجال في عهد ما في قرون أخرى.
When we talk about war, we are not here to think about recreating or working with the ancient or the older traditional lines or calligraphy. What I'm trying to think about is a different language, a language for the future. And I am still searching for the concept. How to deal with letters. Letters are the king. The letter is the sultan. In my search, I found that we've been stuck for generations and centuries. What we call the thick calligraphy pen. It has been a repetition, and we were stuck. And we are trying to create a new language. I abstracted. I removed all the meaning and I left the rhythm of the letter and mixing between what I learned from other cultures. And in the West, they are the letter schools of calligraphy. For me, the most important one is Brooklyn. In his philosophical ideas. But this is not the topic of today's conversation. Today, we need to talk about opening doors. Let's free the letters. How do we mix with other cultures and how do we connect and have a conversation with other cultures? You've seen the work. I am still learning more, and my aim, my objective in the Arab region, lots of artists were initially calligraphers and thought that it's an easy task. It is not. That we can add a little bit or remove a little bit for a letter. It is not that easy. We need to try to break the barrier of the misunderstanding. May God give you long life to give us more and more artistic work. If you have questions, we will have a Q&A section later. If you have any questions, you can put Q&A questions if you want. You can pose any questions right now. Just put it in the Q&A section. I have a question first. In the 5 minutes we have, can you give advice to the artists who are trying to innovate after all this long experience that you have? What is your advice? When the artist finds himself that he is in front of his own work, and look at his work and close his doors. You're saying that they should focus on their own work and learn about other cultures. If they have something, they have education. Can you talk to us a little more about the identity, because you spoke to us about identity and letters, Arabic identity. This is the biggest mistake. I am part of a global team. The pyramid in Egypt, they belong to everybody. Arabic calligraphy belongs to everybody. When they talk about a message, we don't talk about a message that is stuck to any particular part. Art is for everyone. We are trying to look at the historical background, the Arabic Nabatean, the changes and the advancements. And when people talk about the Kufi tradition or the Andalusian school, where are these schools now? We grew up thinking about these schools. What we need to think about is the language of today. Identity and searching for an identity is a dangerous matter because it makes people close their doors. We want to make art open the doors and converse with others. Yes, dialogue is very important. Letter and it's open to everybody.
أول كتاب بالمطبعة مع الفاتيكانو، أول كتاب بالمطبعة باش يعرف يعني ثقافتنا.
The first book in the print becomes part of the world culture. The whole. We should not restrict ourselves to one local identity. We need to communicate with others and open our doors and have conversations.
if you have a
I
question
want
for
to remind the audience to think about questions, and they can add them to the Q&A section.
And if you have any comments, please also feel free to add them to the Q&A section and I will relay them. بس لو اي حدا عم بقول لهم اذا حدا عنده سؤال بحب يسالك
I am encouraging people to pose questions if they have any questions.
سؤال بعد الجمال اللي شفناه يعني ما بتصور حدا
I don't think anybody can find their words after all the beauty.
فحضرتك مقيم هلا بتونس.
Currently, do you live in Tunisia?
استاذ نجاة سامعني؟
لا انت سمعتك
سامعني هلا عم بسال في حدا عم يسال جد عم يسال بداياتك كيف كانت البدايات بس عنده
There is a question about your
اهتمامك بالخط.
How did you start? How did you start your own work? I am still starting. I am about to start. Currently, at this moment.
في عم بيقولوا عم يسألوا كمان كيف هل الهندسة نوع من الانسبيريشن يعني اعطاك وحي للكاليغرافي بدهم اياك تحكيهم شوي عن الهندسة.
Engineering it was an inspiration for you in calligraphy. Yes, of course. The architecture is connected to calligraphy. Another question. How many cultures have affected your work and the amazing artwork that you shared with us? Lots of cultures. All cultures. All cultures. The name of my title, the title of my exhibition, take after so many different cultures. We absorb the Western culture. I grew up with open doors to the world. So the influences are from different cultures, from international culture. Yes, the world, the globe, music of the world. Another question, it's kind of a repetition that I asked. What is your advice?
بس هي عم بتقول انه انت كيف طورت الستايل الخاص فيك شو
did you develop your style
تطور صوتك الخاص.
What were the steps that you took to find your own unique voice as an artist?
من جانب التعليم كثير من العائلات يقول لك ابني وبنتي
You need to focus on the education.
فانا اطار نضعه الشباب ونوجهه يعني
I encourage
التوجيه مع الناس
to
مختصين في ميدان
focus
معين.
on education and get mentoring and get tutoring from specialized.
بنتي فنانة أو فنانة ومغروم.
It looks like it's easy that this is an artist or
فما
an artist,
معين
but
للتوجيه.
inside you need a framework for education. I really emphasize
التعليم قصدك التعليم مش بس الأكاديمي بس التعليم الشخصي ما هيك يعني إنه الواحد يعلم نفسه.
You're not talking just about the academic education. You're talking about the personal.
عنده تأثير كبير جدا جدا جدا.
You can think about the familial as well, the family education. This has a really big influence.
بتقول إنه أنت بتحكي عن
There's another question from Irma.
ما بعد الوقت ومزج الحضارات.
You talk about
وهذا الموضوع مهم جدا الآن.
And this is a very important topic in art.
فيها كتير وكتير تأثرت
Your work has influenced her a lot.
عم تسمع
And she is really touched and moved by what you're saying.
فهي عم
This was Irma's comment. She thanks you greatly for your ideas as well as for your work.
طيب هل في أسئلة تانية بنحب نوجهها لأستاذ نجاة قبل ما نشكره؟ Any other questions that we can
move on?
بتصور هيدي نهاية حديثنا
were
مع حضرتك.
the
بتشكر
question. This is, I think,
وقتك وبتشكر
the end
أنا
of
شخصياً
our
عندي
very short
اعتراف
talk
إنك من
with you.
أحد
I
أبطالي.
have a confession.
أثرت فيي
You are one
جداً
of my heroes.
من صغري ولما من أول ما
I
شفت
was young
صورك
when I
بشكرك لكل
first saw your
مجهودك،
work.
بشكرك لكل وقتك اللي عملته
I
لحتى
am
تغير بنظرة
thanking you
العالم
for
للثقافة
all the
العربية
effort
ويطولنا
and
بعمرك.
work that you've done to change the way the world sees the Arabic letters. Thank you very much. I ask you,
شكرا جدا
I thank you very much for this project and for hosting.
أهلا. قبل ما ننتقل للمتحدث
Before we
الثاني
move
بنحب
to the
نشارك
next
معكم
speaker, we'd like to share
تحركات تايبوغرافية من ناس السبونسرز
some
هيدا السنة. من بعده رح تكون معنا
some of the
So before our next
sponsors.
presenter, we would like to share with you typographic animations made by our sponsors for this year's conference, and then we will have Yara Khouri present after this. So thank you for staying.
And he wakes up and his arm is doing the thing it's kind of glowing whenever he turns it on. So I think he finally like unlocked 100%.
أهلا وسهلا. رجعنا. المحاضرة الجاية رح تكون باللغة الإنجليزية، فرح أقدم المتحدثة بالإنجليزي يارا خوري، هي مصممة جرافيك وخطوط طباعية. Yara Khouri is a graphic designer and type designer. She is assistant professor of graphic design at the American University of Beirut. Previously, she worked at Al-Muhtaraf, a multidisciplinary design house for 20 years. Her research interests include Arabic typography, bilingual Arabic and Latin typography, type design, and book design. She is the author of Nasri Khatar, a modernist type tech. If you don't have that book, I highly recommend it. Yara, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to host you, Yara. Thank you for joining us from Beirut. I'll just, before you start sharing your presentation, I want to remind everybody, if you have questions for Yara, please add them in the Q&A box and I will share them with Yara. Yara, I'm so excited to hear your presentation. Please, you can start.
So I will go ahead. All right. Is it starting? Do you see?
Yes, can you go to full screen, please?
It is on full screen.
You can see your bars. Yeah. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah. I would like to thank you first, Bahia, for inviting me to Typographics to share with you my journey through the professional work and the academic experience I've had up to now. I will try to connect the dots, I would like to come up with conclusions, my own, on how we would like to head towards the future as Arab designers and educators. Through a quick overview or snapshot, a very quick snapshot of my work in book design, Arabic type, and lettering, I will show you how it has fed straight into my ongoing research. Some I had designed at Muhtaraf and some more recently. For 20 years, I worked as the design director at Muhtaraf, one of the very few graphic design studios in the region at the time. So you're saying 1997 and on. I developed all sorts of projects, mostly using the Arabic language and often in bilingual form. In parallel, I had also been teaching graphic design and mainly typography for the past 25 years. So first, I thought I might try to introduce to you a bit Muhtaraf's design ethos and way of working. Of course, Camille will do a better job after me. I think he has even a bit much more perspective on the Muhtaraf's design ethos. If you take a close look at the two words on the right, you will find a hand-drawn classic thuluth by Ma'moon Ahmed. Ma'moon Ahmed is the in-house Arabic calligrapher at the studio, Muhtaraf. And this is something very rare to find in a studio, an in-house calligrapher. And on the left is Camille's hand drawing in freehand lettering, the driving motor of Al-Muhtaraf. On the right, there's the tradition. The right hand believes in traditional calligraphic rules and the left in freedom and the hand gesture. It is bound by the hand gesture and within boundaries of legibility, of course. So this is exactly the kind of experimentation, the to and fro that occurred at the studio. Let's say a push-pull relationship with letter forms. This symbiotic relationship between the calligraphic and the graphic produced extraordinary results. Some of them are for corporations such as Domino's Pizza, typefaces, for regional newspapers such as Al Yawm newspaper, Shams newspaper typeface. I'm going to go very quickly through these. And Shams again, and our own custom typefaces for exclusive studio use. We had to design our own typefaces because there weren't many at the time. We are now super lucky to have a wave of new designers coming out and designing a lot of beautiful type. So at the time we didn't, so we had to design our own, and anyone who worked with Muhtaraf got custom typefaces for them. So experimental display typefaces like HB Beiruti, which I designed with Taline Yozgatyan, and something like Tabush on the left that is yellow and in yellow and has no counters. It eats itself up, or it has gone so large that the counters have gone. Or even a typeface that exists only in 3D. This is Kashida. This is out of Muhtaraf. This is a biscriptal typeface in Latin and Arabic designed with Mele Hammer. This project was organized by Khat Foundation's typographic matchmaking project as part of an ongoing effort to research and push the boundaries of Arabic type. So I'm taking you through a quick view of these. I also worked on logos and a lot of logos and brand identities. And I'm just showing just a few. Something like this would be based on Kufi structure and the very tight inter-word and inter-counter spaces. So something like this, we had a lot of opportunities to work with companies that start with the letter B. So we have Bawardi and I don't know what, and you get to work with a lot of, or Sheen, for example, like Shobukji and Sharqawi, both are electromechanical companies. We worked on mastheads for newspapers. This didn't happen, but I wish it did because it was a beautiful project. And governmental organizations that archive وثائق ومحفوظات documents, both inspired from Eastern Kufi styles, for example, or environmental large-scale lettering applications for a mosque. inspired by Square Kufi again, or lettering for special events, inspired by Maghribi Kufi. Now I move to books. The books I designed at Muhtaraf at the time was also a challenge to deal with. This one is trilingual in English, Arabic, and French, Saudi artists today. And I decided to give each language a dedicated hanging line throughout the whole book. All three languages ran in parallel with each other, basically. The Arabic, the English, and the French ran in parallel. And each one was given a hanging line. The first is English, the second is French, and the third is Arabic. It didn't matter what the column size or type size was, as long as the readers found their way around the hanging lines on each row. It was such a flexible system for me, which allowed a lot of variation in text blocks and compositions. Even an artist biography hung in 3 rows, or something like this. The introduction started from each side of the book. So this is something I want to talk about later on in the presentation, because there's always a dilemma on which side of the book you want to start with as a reader. Do you want to give precedence to the Arabic, or do you want to give precedence to the English side? So the introduction stop and tailed the book from both sides. Another book, The Minarets of the Arabian Gulf, for example, is another bilingual book. It opens again from both sides. It's an Arabic and English one. But this time I wanted to give precedence to the Arabic more. So I placed it on the top and gave it a much larger chunk of the space. Now, having gained some perspective after I left Muhtaraf, I now think of it as one of the first professional Arabic type and lettering labs in every sense of the word. And I say that slowly. It was actually producing a working knowledge model without being much aware of it. We didn't know. You can check out some of the work on their website, basically, if you want to know about the studio. Some of the more recent projects I worked on is the Mahmoud Kahil Award book and exhibition. The award scheme is organized by the Sawaf Arabic Comics Initiative at AUB, the American University of Beirut, in the areas of comics, cartoons, and illustration. I worked on this project in collaboration with Khajak Apelian, who is an instructor and colleague at the graphic design department at AUB and a dear friend. This book is bilingual, Arabic and English. Since the texts are relatively short, this wasn't a problem to solve, a big problem, because all the text can be put on a page, and the problem of flipping the pages was not an issue here. So it opened from the Arabic side, and the English ran in the opposite direction to the Arabic. The project also included a full-fledged exhibition of the winners at Beit Beirut, and again, the exhibition bilingual, and we used here the typeface IBM Plex, also designed by Khajak Apelian and Wael Marcos from Marcoski. Also, more recently, I'm going quickly because I want to reach to the research area. So more recently, and also part of my experimentation in lettering, is the poster I designed with Hungarian designer Dora Balla for Design Across Borders. The initiative coupled together more than 50 renowned female designers from 30 different countries to design a poster. The posters would raise enough money to buy hygiene kits for Syrian refugees in Lebanon. This was the poster we designed. Dora Balla designed me, which means in Hungarian, we all. And I designed the letters نحن وهم, هم ونحن, نحن وهم, هم ونحن, and the last line نحن هم, which says us and them and us, until it repeats and it says we are them. Jazz and Ink is another Arabic lettering exhibition that I curated with Khajak Apelian for Salon Beirut. 15 visual artists from the Arab world joined us to design custom artwork using Arabic lettering for a classic jazz number. This was a treat. The titles were translated and sent to each designer to produce their own work. The artwork was then silk screen printed in a limited number of 50 posters. It's still running at Salon Beirut, the exhibition. And Camille is one of the artists. This is a look from Waqt al-Sayf, which means summertime, to what a wonderful world, to Above the Rainbow, to some of my favorite things, Cry Me a River, Stolen Moments. This was my interpretation. Since I curated it, Khajak and I also contributed to the posters because this is what we want to do and we are very excited about it. The jazz title was I've Got You Under My Skin. But the translation is not really literal, it's kullak fi kulli. Now to the practice-based research. How can that design practice inform my role as an educator or a researcher? Are they two separate activities? Or are they two sides of the same coin? With my feet in both worlds, I used to immensely enjoy this to and fro, bringing fresh insights and the energy of my students into my professional work. It was such a fresh breeze. And then taking into the classroom the real life experiences I dealt with at the studio, specifically those of Arabic typography, bilingual identities, and bilingual book design. I think it also rubbed off a lot of the students that came my way. And they continued to do the work and continued this push and this, what's the word? I forgot it now. Anyway, so I kept doing it until a natural phenomena of osmosis, and that word would come up again, where I managed to equalize the concentration on both sides. By equalize, I mean the designer and the academic became one, probably the visual researcher. And I think this is what Nja was also saying. He's an eternal visual researcher somehow. So my first project into the research world was a 2-year one on the life and works of Nasri Khattar, Lebanese architect and type designer. This research culminated in a bilingual book, which was published by Khat Foundation as part of their Arabic design library series. Check it out, as Bahia said. I actually, now that I come to think about it after 5 years, I think, I actually did a research on the researcher. His ideas never came to fruition. So in a nutshell, Unified Arabic is a simplified set of 30 letters that unifies the variant shapes of the Arabic alphabet. It is based on the one form per letter principle. A letter meme, for example, with its 4 basic variations and more than 30 variant ligature fonts would be designated with one shape only, attached or detached from the letters following or preceding it. For example, these 6 words use the same 3 letters, but in different order. So falah, lahaf, fahal, lahaf, falah, all of these don't change in a unified Arabic setting, but they do in a normal one, as you can see on the left. This is a page from one of his self-published booklets showing the validity of his solution. This is one of the research tracks I took, and it was almost, it's like digging into the archives and weaving a story and contextualizing the events with the evidence he left behind. He knew exactly what he left behind. And he took very good care of his work and archived it really well. Our gain, I think. It's all, his archive is all at the AUB Special Library, I think, Special Archive. Now, after seeing the books, I'm also trying to formalize some of my gained experience in designing bilingual publications in this research. I've always struggled to explain to students the possibilities of bilingual design. On this board is a quick diagram of the options drawn out for students in a publication course at AUB. To start thinking of what possible structures to work with. How does it work? You have 2 opposing scripts that run in the opposite directions. This diagram shows 6, and this really raised the question for me. Is this the only way? And is this the only way we can think about it? So I wanted a more formalized way. This is some of the students' work. They did it in groups, Asil, Rana, and Noor, and Lin. And actually, this group gave precedence to the Arabic more, and the translation was set in red on the right in a smaller size. And this group actually opened the book in a vertical fashion. And when you open it in a vertical fashion, you are almost deleting the parameter of which side to open and which side to give precedence, which language to give precedence to. So, First of all, we need to cover the one fundamental difference between the two scripts. Arabic reads from right to left, while Latin reads in the opposite direction. The opposing reading directions pose the most challenging structural questions and dictates the resulting formats. The next step was to track the decision-making process. Where do I start from? I think in the research, the starting point was the reading direction, right? You will start with thinking, is it going to open from right to left, left to right, both ways, or vertically? These are the ones to think of. And with this, another issue came out. What about language negotiation? How does that work? Cultural identity or bias? And the question of authority comes in. Which language was it translated from? And should that be reflected in the design? And then more parameters emerged. Script proximity. Do both scripts sit on the same page next to each other while they are going in opposite directions? Are we asking flipping of the user of the book? Is the user going to flip it right to left, flip it horizontal or vertical, or none? Is the user going to rotate the book to read the other language? Is the text running in text behavior in cross or parallel motion, which means is the text going in opposite directions, or are they going together? And the last one is a book in book, or is it two books in one if they were separate? So an efficient method to organize the parameters was to use a decision tree structure. This is the decision tree with all these parameters. So you start with the reading direction, and this reading direction, for example, right to left gave you 6 options. The both ways, right to left, left to right, gave you 13 options. The vertical, for example, gave you 9 options. All in all, it was 33 books, and not the 6 I had drawn with Khajak and Professor Layla Musfi in the course. There was much more to think about. The final result is going to be published in an interactive website that allows the user to download a dummy of the different structures through, let me play. Okay, so the final result is going to be published in an interactive website. It allows the user to download a dummy of the different structures through a special configurator. So the filter or the decision tree you were seeing is now transformed into a filter on the website. This is preliminary still. The filter, the user can also upload the text. They have to get a very realistic result. You'll see how it works now. The filter takes the user through the whole decision process. Once you apply the filter, the number of structural results appear. Please also note that there's another part of this study which talks about the typography. And this has in no way dealing with any typographic hierarchies or anything. Once you apply the filter, when the user chooses one of the results, an infographic appears that explains the chosen one, and the option to download is 16-page here, or here, a 16-page here, sectional of live text fed into the pages. So the research is funded by the American University of Beirut, while the website is funded by the Arab Fund for Arts and Culture and the Arab Council for Social Sciences. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the Arabic type unit at AUB. And yesterday we got very good news that the unit is going to be transformed into an incubator for the center. So we got funding to start doing, the work on a much bigger level. The unit or the incubator is aiming to research, develop, and set standards of design in Arabic type, lettering, and typography, and their interaction with the social and political and cultural landscape. It plans to centralize these research finds and resources, and more specifically, it targets multilingualism and Arabic type developments by publishing the research and creating forums of discussion and interaction, such as Mashq Conference. Probably some of you have heard of it because some of you were invited to be speakers at it, which was planned for spring 2020 and got postponed for the obvious reasons till spring 2022. So brace yourself, Bahia. So back to connecting the dots. In the Western library of resources, and by Western, I mean American and European, there are countless resources, printed and online, that cover the graphic arts, typography, movements, histories, manifestos, how-to books, monographs, you name it. You can, the list goes on. This is my own formal education. And this is the education we are inherently and indirectly passing on to our students. All the while we are trying to work with a script, the Arabic one, that has its own unique visual imprint, and more often than not plays at odds with Western design principles. This applies to type and typographic hierarchies, text settings, layouts, and compositions. At the end, I would like to finish with fikr wa fan, which is thought and art, or it depends how you want to translate it. And my last is, I'm going to read this. There are no rules. We are free to design in whatever fashion we want to deem fit. Our only guides are the European design principles that we were formally trained in, and the Arabic calligraphic principles and their application on manuscripts that keep us within range, keep us at bay. Not principles only, but a long-standing tradition, a civilizational identity issue. I know this word identity is scary, that keeps factoring into the work. When I moved into academia, my own impetus was to extract from my experience, by trial and error, some formal rules that I could get back to my students by analyzing how we design and what are the principles, what are the decisions, how do we take these decisions, and hopefully get them written down and then passed back to the practice. See it this way. So many design projects are being done and have been done using the Arabic script with vague guides and very few references. This is one side of the container. On the other side, there's the unwritten. We don't know, there's no rules. It's starting to emerge, of course, with the help and action of many of us in this room now. But it's high, I want to say that it's high time we level these two sides, write our own rules and recommendations, so to say, our own acquired information, consensus, some sort of form of consensus or agreement on current design practice. The importance of this lies in documenting and formalizing this accumulated know-how that I've had, at least, and thousands of others have had, into academia, then giving it back to the practice. This is the osmosis that is happening on many levels now, between practice and analysis, between industry and academia, between the different efforts even, covering regional graphic design from various perspectives, such as historicizing the past, which you've done, and many others, highlighting key figures in design, such as the Khat books, digging into past practices in order to develop best practices, such as the Typo Arabic from Titus Nemeth, and hopefully our work into this. Also, there's an osmosis between the older generations and the younger generations of designers. So they are mobilizing themselves in that direction, hopefully. Between the craft and the technology, there has to be some form of osmosis and equalization. I am but one element working towards mobilizing this osmosis. The students, the designers in the industry, foundations, the type labs, the publishers, the academic conditions are all working in that direction, I think, at last. Let's hope we can give this willingness or impetus, I will not call it a movement, in a few years' time when we look back at this collective effort in perspective. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Yara. This is amazing. I know where I'm going to be in 2022. I'm coming to Beirut. Your work is beautiful. Your research is amazing. When do you think that this brilliant work you have developed on bilingual book design, when do you think it will be up and running? We all want to use it in our classrooms.
Probably summer 2022.
Perfect. We will look forward to that. I don't think we have a lot of time for questions, but we have two questions. We will go through them very quickly. Toa is asking everybody's agreeing that your work is amazing. The chat box is full of compliments and admiration. So to us saying, what do you feel is lacking today in the world of modern Arabic typefaces?
Many more typefaces.
Many more typefaces.
Many more.
Okay. Puya, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. What is the next phase, in your opinion, to engage with biscriptal research? And will it be made available to other institutions, East and West? This is a question.
I didn't get that. Sorry?
Or they are asking about, in your opinion, what is the next phase to engage with biscriptal research, and will it be made available to other institutions? I mean, I think I asked you that question already.
Yes, the website is going to be on, and the whole idea is to get it as interactive and available as possible to everybody. And of course, Hebrew also runs from right to left, so it can apply to other scripts that run in opposite direction to the Latin. So, and of course, such principles apply to many others when you're mixing scripts.
Brilliant. Everybody's asking. Nada's also asking about when will this be accessible. Yara said it will be hopefully accessible in summer 22. Nada, just keep checking Yara's social media. You can find Yara on Instagram and follow her there to keep you updated. And Yara, please let us know when your research is out. Now you have all the audience waiting for it to come out. It's going to be a great, useful tool, just like your other brilliant work. So thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure being updated on your work. It's always lovely connecting with you. So right now we would like to show you a few more animations from our sponsors, all made just for this year's conference. We will have Kamil Hawa present right after this, and his presentation will be in Arabic. So stay tuned.
Get a font in your inbox every single month. Font of the month.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Our next speaker is Kamil Hawa. I will be switching to Arabic to present him. So please, if you are an English speaker, you can tune into our translator who is going to be live translating all of our conversation today. Kamil Hawa. كميل حوا بيرسم بينحت وبيصمم وبيبدع حروف وكلمات وبيحولهم لأعمال فنية. أسس استوديو المحترف.
He creates constant projects, words into art pieces. We found Al-Muhtaraf in Jeddah, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, one of the leading design houses in the region. Al-Muhtaraf was incubated and inspired many designers over the past 50 years. He's the recipient of several awards, including 2 Typographic Excellence Awards from TDC. He himself has been awarded a lot of awards internationally.
كميل حوا مساء الخير أهلا وسهلا.
كميل حوا hello.
إذا بتحب تبلش تشارك البرزنتيشن.
Would you start by sharing with us the presentation so that we can start the conversation? Good afternoon, good evening. I would like to express my deep gratitude for Typographics for hosting us and to thank Dr. Bahia Shahab who curated the participants from the Arab world. She chose for us to speak in Arabic. This is a wonderful opportunity which allows me to share with you a journey in the field of lines and letters, where graphic design was created with the passion for art and the fonts with the passion of design. This may be what makes this journey different and unique. When I reached the field of developing fonts, I started drawing the letters as I would draw a portrait of a friend. I am a painter to start with. Soon I realized that I am in front of an opportunity to create a difference in the criteria of this vital practice, connected to the field of lettering, which is what we Arabs consider our only art form. I'm talking to non-Arabic speakers. For them to understand how important it is and its unique value for Arabic speakers. We really needed a lot of effort to make the font, the Arabic font, reach the place that it reaches now. Years passed before we realized that caring about fonts is the same as caring about Arabic calligraphy in its modern format. If the outcome of this effort amasses only to designing 20 letters or less on my part, I still feel that my journey left a mark in a field that serves a language and its letters that are used by 1/6 of the world population. Bridges built by today's youth. These days, we find promising cultural phenomenon amongst the youth. First is the spreading interest in Arabic calligraphy and designing fonts. Spending one day on Instagram is enough to see tens of lettering design attempts in a wide variety. So, something that we have not seen before. Among the new graduates from Graphic Design Institute, we find a number of young men and women well prepared to be part of a craft, which was a rare craft till very recently. I would like to call it the craft of the letter, designing fonts. We might find more density of these in the two traditional printing capitals, Cairo and Beirut. But this major phenomenon is spreading in other Arab capitals as well. I feel that this is connected to another phenomenon, namely youth engagement in various artistic activities, music, theater, cinema, especially graffiti art that is filling the streets. It is interesting to compare this to the 60s and the 70s of last century, where youth activities were mostly focused on ideas and ideologies with little concern with art. Today, art is replacing ideas, and the youth are focusing on different kinds of art, looking through them at their present and their future. We can feel the enthusiasm traced back to the Arab Spring. While these uprisings failed in achieving political outcome, yet they left their mark on the youth, who turned to art and its Arabic identity, looking at Arabic calligraphy, both as a heritage and as a contemporary building spontaneous bridges between the two.
ورشة خطوط وحروف. منذ 3 عقود بدأنا في المحترف دار التصميم التي أسستها بين جدة وبيروت.
A workshop for letters and a lab for fonts. 3 decades ago, we started Al-Muhtaraf, the design house that I founded between Jeddah and Beirut. We started designing fonts. There was a huge shortage in the Arabic library that we used one letter for half of our application as a certain period of time. We didn't have a big ambition for our first letters to fill the gap, especially that they were letters for titles. That accomplishment did not start till years later. In the first period, Al-Muhtaraf was a workshop for calligraphy. As you notice on the screen, these are calendars with letters. We really cared about the classic lines, the traditional lines. We produced a number of calendars. Each page had that was dedicated to one of the 6 traditional line pens. For Arabs today, there are 6 traditional pens. What we wanted to spread the calligraphy culture. Each page was dedicated to one of these 6 traditional pens. One type. The alphabet in the same pen, brief on this line and its history and its usage. We were not those who got the calendar received a reference about the basic calligraphy pens that they often hear about but don't know their hits.
وبعد سنين إذا أمامكم عمل مختلف تماما.
What's in front of you is very different work now.
المشاهد العربي انه مثل
Uh,
ما فينا
the
نعمل
Arabic
لوحات خطيه
audience,
خطوط
as
كلاسيكيه ممكن نعمل لوحات
we use the classical lines, we can also do natural flow. This is a calendar of fonts, only fonts.
فعلا حاز على اعجاب شديد لما تم طباعته.
It was really admired and very well appreciated.
اما بالنسبه للحروف الطباعيه
As for the fonts, we decided from the first letter
الخروج عن قاعده الاعتماد على الخطوط
not to rely on the traditional calligraphy to establish the shape of the letter.
في الاساس جميع من صمم
At the beginning, anybody who designed the starting point was searching in the aesthetics of the letter and what its shape expresses. Of course, we were aware of the rules of the traditional letters, but we also realized that we have to build the contemporary font on different bases that then inherited traditional pens.
يعني كان عندنا هذا الشعار الخط يكتب والحرف يطبع.
We had this logo. Calligraphy is written, fonts are printed. This is an important distinction. Hand calligraphy, especially in Arabic, is formed through the hand of the calligrapher, while the fonts are fixed. If it comes at the beginning or in the center or at the end, it has to be consistently the same. There is no space to move it, to mix it with the other letters. We needed a different aesthetic for the font that is different from the aesthetics that exists in the calligraphy, in the handwriting. This is one of the first fonts that we developed at the Muhtaram. We were looking for a different aesthetic, a new aesthetic.
إلى الحرف الأنيق. الحرف الطباعي بده ياخذ شكل آخر.
The font, the printed font needed its own aesthetic.
يشكل في يد الخطاط ضمن تقويم الكلمة.
Hand calligraphy is formed through the hand of the calligrapher, while the font is exactly the same. Then it needs a new way of dealing with it to handle its reality, to take it to the letter, to the industrial age, to a different aesthetic, resembling the architecture in which we live and the tools and the equipment that we use today. Removing fonts from under the shadow of traditional calligraphy was the step that opened unlimited horizons for variety and creativity. Arabic library of letters was and still is in deep need of new horizons.
لم يكن في هذا الابحاث نحو حريه التجربه اي انكار.
Failing towards the freedom of experimentation does not deny the high status or the exquisite works produced by calligraphy artists. It was a determination that the inherited calligraphy rules established ages ago does not pose limitation or hindrance on creativity, and insistence that reacting to the beauty of these works acts as a motivation to reach new peaks of creativity, not standing where they are and not repeating them endlessly. Contemporary and heritage together. For me, experimenting on free lines was a real laboratory without realizing it most of the time, especially that I did not realize it most of the time. As I wrote holy verses or names of occasions, I found myself creating new letter forms for each verse or name, reflecting the message in the verse and sometimes its pace, or mirroring the name and its significance. I did that spontaneously. قل هو الله أحد. Say God is the only God.
قول هذا العمل اللي هو يعني ممكن يأخذ الناس عليه بعض البدائية بخط كلاسيكي.
Some might find the primitiveness of this work a drawback, but it's a big gap between what's now and relevant and present and what's the classical. Some might think that it's primitive, but its genuineness caused admiration by others. It was the outcome of the painter and the designer in me working together. Sometimes I would draw and then realize that this could eventually be a font. Sometimes I'm just painting naturally the letters in certain free form, and then I realize that this line that I started freehand writing could become a font. And this is kind of counter to the spreading logic. Ar-Rahman, the merciful one, you can see that I realized years later that this formation of letters, it was the beginning of typeface that I designed years later. I used this and created a whole family of letters of a form I call frank letter. You can see the resemblance between the letters in the verse and the letters that become a font that they use in magazine titles or in the text. This is harf sarih that came straight ahead from free writing without predetermined thinking about it, that this would become one day a font. Returning to them after a while, I would find in them the beginning of the fonts that I designed years later. I started believing in the letters flowing freely from the hand of any designer. Many a word or a name magically became a full font letter or a family of letters, summarizing the feelings of the painter designer, storing, in my opinion, his connection to his heritage, as well as the influences of his time, its forms and arts. My deep belief that the true artist must combine. When his hand moves, it connects him to his heritage and his times. It's a full combination between both, not one or the other alone. In the true artist, both must combine the heritage and the contemporary to his, to form his own DNA. Himself, he himself, or she herself. The Impressionist artists, for example, they say they are the same but different at the same time because of connecting both the heritage and the contemporary or their own time. We can see that these eventually or later on become their own fonts. You cannot have one without the other. The heritage and the contemporary. If it's a true artist, without any compromises, you cannot be contemporaneous
والفكر والروايات اللي يقرأها إلى آخره.
The things he's reading, the things affect him, the art around him. For this artist to be a true artist that is influenced by everything around the industrial forms, the trucks, the cutlery, the tools, everything. The end of the day, where is Arabic heritage? It is us, the living Arabs. It is us, the living Arabs. It is our heritage. It's either living in us or it dies. The development of the experiment and as part of the atmosphere of renovation and abstraction, Al-Muhtaraf produced work that was considered part of the art of the world. I would like to invite you to see a selection of them, showing how the Arabic writing is readily giving itself for variation in form. We find that writing any word in an unlimited number of shapes much easier than in other languages. Maybe this stems from the fact that the cursive writing and its structure allows for horizontal expansion as well as vertical extension in addition to circular formation. This ability for variation stems partly from the traditional calligraphy, but this is multiplied with entering free forms of expression. Naturally, the young talents blossoming every day are gaining courage in free experimentation without any boundaries. The availability of more brave and courageous fonts, this brings us closer to inventing new lines that resemble the modern times. The last thing I'm showing are different kinds of fonts that I designed very recently. These are mainly a search or a research in the aesthetic of the letter. The freedom and the flexibility allowed for the designer to play with the letters whichever way he or she wants. This is like cursive, but it's connected and separate at the same time.
عظيم. هلا عم نقدر نشوفه.
سوري عم بتصير
لا ما مشكلة، فينا نكمل هلا على البعد الرابع.
اوكي. هلا مبين السكرين.
لا مبين السكرين وعم تطلع الانيميشن.
اورايت خلاص الانيميشن دقيقتين فمعلش بعتذر.
بدك تحكي فوقها؟
لا حقيقة هل الانيميشن هي اختيارات من مجموعة كبيرة من الأعمال؟
This is a selection of a big part of works that shows us how range of variety and information of Arabic calligraphy and Arabic font.
بيمثل الاسم يا بيمثل المناسبة يا بيمثل الكذا.
Sometimes it reflects the name or the occasion. I don't think there is another writing that has the same way of formation as much as the Arabic language.
مكتوب الكلمات مكتوبة على اليمين من تحت، يعني هاي كلمة جوع hunger.
This is the word hunger, جوع. نقوش. We can note here that the letters are not connected. This is the word Beirut that is transforming in front of us. And this is the word art.
الآن ننتقل لآخر شيء في هذه البرزنتيشن وهي
The last thing I want to talk about in this presentation is the fourth dimension.
الورقة وحدهما رفيقي الخطوط الحروف والخطوط.
Two spaces or more, or two dimensions or more. Paper and ink are the companions of letters and line, but art hates boundaries. Some two-dimensional letters started to take a third dimension. We started to see sculpted letters or 3D in public spaces. But these experiments taught us that the third dimension is not enough to transform a word into a sculpture or a 3D. It needs a fourth dimension. This is what is added by the artistic taste to create the breakthrough. But the experiment will not fill its full space without the form that is built for 4 dimensions. These sculptures have something in a 4th dimension. It the taste and the artistry of the art creates that dimension. The best example of this kind of presentation is this is called Isra. This sketch was born in a pencil sketch that came out this way already more than 3 dimensions. You cannot take it back to a 2-dimensional. It loses everything. I consider this composition it represents a major transformation. With this, I conclude the presentation and I apologize for the disconnection. Don't apologize to us. This is wonderful, and we thank you for all the time that you gave us and for the artwork and for your philosophy and all your work. I want to remind the audience, if you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A section so that I can direct your questions to Camille.
من كل الناس، ففي كلمات شكر كثيره من كل الناس من كل العالم. بس في عنا سؤال من ندى ابو زيد. ندى عم تسال: هل ترى ان تعلم الخط العربي التقليدي يساعد في تصميم الخطوط العربيه المطبوعه وتصميم الفنون الخط؟
This is a question from...
سؤال من ندى.
ما في شك، يعني تعلم الخطوط الاساسيه بيساعد، لانه في
from Nada Abu in developing new fonts. Yes, of course, the Arabic letters. There are two things. The 6 traditional pens that we inherited from very different resources. The Arabs had many more forms of calligraphy, so it's important to learn it. But we have to go beyond it, the freedom of forming and contemporary work.
بتلاحظوا انه يعني في تجارب.
This set of works that I showed you, I named them after the names of the prophets, because we worked with the energy of enthusiasm, of spontaneity, to open the space and the doors for renovation.
What, in your opinion, caused the delay in the development of Arabic typefaces, and do you believe it was due to the strong connection to the original forms of Arabic scripture أو خط, and a sort of fear of drifting from that or challenging it? يعني شو اللي برأيك أثر على تأخير التطوير الخطوط العربية المطبوعة؟ وهل أنت بتعتقد أنه العلاقة بين الخطوط الأصلية أو الأشكال الأصلية للخط، أو هل كان خوف من أنه نبعد عن الخطوط الستة أو الخطوط الأصلية؟
ما في شك أنه يعني أولاً الطباعة تأخرت في العالم العربي بهيك.
Printing was delayed in the Arab world, but also there was fear of departing from the 6 traditional pens. Teaching graphic design and designing fonts in institutes did not start.
بينما مثلا الجامعة الأمريكية في بيروت عمرها 150 سنة. متى بدأت؟ فالحقيقة هو صار في تأخر بكل هذا المجال. يعني
there was a lot of delay in the whole field.
مغادرة الخطوط التقليدية.
The fear of leaving the traditional fonts behind was predominant. We have another question.
More typefaces and typographic experimentation in Arabic design. His question, or their question, is: so what do you think is lacking in Arabic academics and institutions to allow the freedom and explosion or creation of fonts, maybe you mean, that is still lagging behind the Latin type world? Do we need funding, copyright laws, better education? فبويا عم يسأل إنه كلنا بنتفق إنه في يعني حاجة لخطوط طباعية عربية، وشو اللي ناقص من المؤسسات التعليمية العربية لحتى تسمح بالحرية ظهور فونتات جديدة؟ وليه نحن متأخرين عن الخطوط اللاتينية عالميا؟ هل نحن محتاجين تمويل أو حقوق فكرية أو تعليم أحسن؟ شو برأيك؟
يعني محتاجين كل هاي الحقيقة. بس محتاجين أكثر.
We need all of them.
هي الحقيقة يعني المصمم الحروف
the font designer
على مسؤوليته الشخصية يعني
is the person who is taking the risk on their own. There are no institutions that are supporting this. I don't know why there is no organization or institution that supports font designer and can support the youth who are designing new fonts. I would go back to where I started this conversation. I see that there is a big number of youth who are specializing in font design, and they are very well prepared. In Cairo, there is a lot. In Beirut, there are a lot of them. Amman, other places as well, and this is very promising actually.
حدا عنده سؤال بعد لكميل? Are there any further questions for Camille before we wrap up? If you would like to pose any questions, this is your last chance. بعدهم الناس عم بيقولوا لك truly inspiring ومبسوطين انه عم نعمل المحاضرات باللغة العربية. بس حشوف لو في اي اسئلة. ما بتصور في اي اسئلة تانية. مع هيك بشكرك كميل. I would like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
لأفكارك ولفلسفتك ولتلخيصك. بشكر Typographics، بشكر حضوركم من كل نواحي العالم، وبشكر الفريق العمل اللي نظم واشتغل ورا
I want to thank Camille. I want to thank all the audience. I want to thank all those people who are here from everyone all around the world, and for the team and the translator Dalia Basuni.
Second the thanks.
Thank you so much. It's really inspirational. I have goosebumps kind of watching all of the presentations. But yes, it's just huge thank you for curating such a thoughtful program, and a huge thank you to Tanja, to Yara, and to Camille for sharing their work and hearing the insight. It's really inspirational, and it's really moving to see all this work. So I really appreciate your time, your energy, and your thoughts, and your very thoughtful, inspirational words. It's really great to see. So thank you, everyone. We hope to see you in 2 days for day 8 of Typographics. It will be curated by Genaro Ramirez. And also join us next week on Tuesday and Thursday for the final 2 days of this conference. It's been a pleasure having you all here today. Thank you again to Bahia, to all our speakers, and to everyone watching us. So we'll see you soon. Be safe and be healthy.